And 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the NUWAVE podcast. I'm your host, Alpha, as always, and we coming at you again with the good music, the good conversation, and the good vibes all around. Let me remind y'all one more time to like, share, and subscribe. Please help a brother out. And without further ado, let's get into the topic. So, I've been reading this book recently, the Kybalion. It's written by who are known as the three initiatives, or the three initiates, excuse me. Their names aren't important, but they're kind of based around the realm of this idea of Hermeticism, right? It's not a religion per se, but it's kind of these ideas that came forth around this figure known as Hermes Trismegistus, right? I got my fucking notes today, y'all, so strap in. Hermes Trismegistus. So this isn't a real person in history, based on my research. This is just a name that they used to signify the combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. These were two gods that were there to represent similar things like wisdom and other things in history. And yeah, so he basically not a real person, but a symbol created to represent two gods. And basically, these ideas formed around the Hellenistic period. This is a period around 323 BC to 21 BC, and I felt that was good to highlight because it's pre-Christianity, before Christ. This is a period where Alexander the Great had just taken over the world, basically, and he had died. And they had this Renaissance period where a lot of these great thinkers that came about Rome or Greece, whatever. And yeah. So, the 7 Hermetic Principles. See, the book goes over, this is the whole book, basically. It goes over each principle in depth. It has its own chapter. And I really felt that it had some powerful stuff, but I felt like it definitely needed to be translated in a new cultural lens, if that makes sense. Because this book was published in, I believe, like 1903, and this knowledge, like we said, dates back to how far, So without further ado, let's get into the first principle. And this first principle is going to be a little bit of a big one because upon reading this a few times, like, I felt that the first principle really is the biggest one, all right? And what are we talking about? So, without further ado, number 1, the principle of mentalism, right? Mentalism. And this principle, I feel, can be summed up really in one term, and I have it written here. All is mind, right? All is mind. And really, this principle embodies the reality that the universe is, and all that we perceive is really just a manifestation of our mind, right? Let that sink in for a second, because a lot of us, I feel like, really perceive the universe as physical. We never really sit and reflect on how our mental really shapes the world around us. You know what I'm saying? And then this is what this principle really embodies. Let me try to not get ahead of myself here. I have written here really an example, and another philosophical example comes from this, and it's Schrodinger's cat. If y'all know what that is, it's basically this scientific kind of philosophical concept where there's a cat. It's in a box. They put a bunch of knives in the box, kind of like a magician, right? And they take them out. They don't look at the cat, though, so they don't know if the cat's dead, but they kind of know, but they can't confirm it. So it's technically alive and dead at the same time, and it's a paradox. Regardless, it's basically saying that nothing really exists until you perceive it. So based on that information, we can kind of conclude that all is mind, all exists in the mind. Because if it doesn't exist before you perceive it, then it never really can exist. If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? All that bullshit. Okay, we've kind of heard it before. So now what, right? Now what? These are all kind of concepts that we've pondered at least one time or another, I hope. But how do we kind of apply this, and how do we grow with this knowledge, right? Well, this first principle has its own chapter, and it goes over what they call mental transmutation. And now, upon reading this a couple times, I'm going to kind of translate this, and I'm pretty sure what this is representing, or this is trying to say, is with mental transmutation, it's just the mastering of your mental state, right? So transmuting means to change something. So mental, pretty much mastering, changing your mental state, right? Because if all is mind, then essentially a change of mindset could be a change in your universe, and it can be. It really can be. And upon reading this, I really realized that is really the power of this information, because when you really sit and think, it's very true. Like you are really that barrier between change in your outer world, but it's all in your mind. So let's unpack this a little bit more, shall we? What else do I got here? Yeah, I mean, really with this book, it really hits on mastering your mental state and yourself, because and what it really has taught me and helped me realize a little bit more is the fact that the answers to everything and all of my problems, all my issues, definitely lie in here. It's all here, and it all just requires a change. And we're gonna get into the next principles, but it all kind of helps illustrate the flow of reality and really helps paint a better picture and kind of help you be more equipped in battling, day by day shit. But anywho, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, y'all. Number two. The principle of correspondence. See, with the Kybalion, I learned that this book and the whole Hermetic thinking and circle and sphere, whatever, it really birthed the term as above, so below. And we've heard this a million times. And if you never knew where it came from, this is where it came from. As above, so below. This is really what embodies principle number 2, the principle of correspondence. Now, what are we talking about? As above, so below, yada yada. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, basically, this is the principle of reality that we're talking about light and dark, yin and yang. You can't have dark without light. You can't have good without evil. And it all kind of circles into this balance. And really, what the book explains is that with mental transmutation is that through a change in mindset, like I've said before, you can alter a physical state in your reality. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just kind of hitting on it again, but yeah, it's very powerful stuff. So yeah, principle of correspondence number 2 really is wrapped up in just one word: balance, right? And a lot of these principles, as you can see, are gonna kind of remain in the realm of balance, painting this picture of like full and whole universe that you need to understand as that. It's not black or white, it's gray. Everything is gray and everything is chaos. But yeah, anyway, number 3, right? The principle of vibration, right? Vibration. So this is more of a scientific one. This one is kind of hard to find like real physical applications, but really in my notes here I kind of just hit on the fact that it's saying that everything is kind of in motion. Everything is never resting. You think about the electrons, the atoms, the molecules, and it's crazy honestly when I was reading this and thinking that they had this written down and they had this principle as reality, and they understood this before we even really understood what electrons and molecules and atoms and all this shit were. And there's not a whole lot to hit on with this second principle that we haven't already hit on before a little bit, but yeah, I just kind of thought that was interesting that they kind of already had that principle set before science had caught up, But anywho, I also have here that it also hits on not only like the physical sense, but in the mental sense too. So we're talking about vibrations, right? We're talking about the frequencies in the air, you know what I'm saying? And I think that the principle of vibration also, or at least a good example of painting a picture of what I was just saying, is the whole, the concept of a vibe, you know what I'm saying? The concept of a vibe, it's a tangible living thing that isn't necessarily in the physical realm, if that makes sense. But anywho, that's number 3. Principle number 4, right? The principle of polarity. Okay. This is kind of around the same realm of correspondence. This is a little bit similar. And it's saying that everything is dual, right? And I have a quote here that's going to somewhat paraphrase what was actually, in the book. So it says, everything is dual. It has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are one and the same. All truths are half-truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. There's a lot of these like very like vague and ambiguous quotes in here. It's very it's almost like it's intentionally vague, and it's very interesting when I read these and I'm trying to dissect them and translate them in a new lens and try to really understand what it is that they were trying to convey, because this is ancient knowledge here, like and people were killed for shit like this. So, I think that it's only right for us as the upcoming generation to pass this shit on, make sure it doesn't fall by the wayside, because it's only in books. You know what I'm saying? Like like damn. Anywho, so polarity. Like we said, everything is dual. We're talking about more. This is more hitting on balance, and really that one term, balance, it really can encapsulate what a lot of these principles are trying to hit on. But it's not only that, right? It's understanding the balance, and then knowing when and how to shift your mental state, and in order to balance the energy and achieve the outcome that you really want. I kind of said a lot there, and this kind of sounds like some mumbo jumbo shit, but really, if you start applying these things, see, the knowledge is just a tool, right? The knowledge is just a tool, or the weapon, right? What you really need to do with this information, if you want to reap benefits or really see it as it is apply it, right? Like I said, the knowledge is just a tool, the weapon. It needs a wielder in order to truly, y'all know what I mean. I'm already getting ahead of myself. And so we're still on polarity. What do I have here? Yeah, like the number 4. It also hit on like love and hate, and that becoming aware of these principles and of the balance. It helps you. If you're a master of this, you can change your mental state at will. You know what I'm saying? And I've kind of been hit on this a few times before, but I'm just kind of trying to stay on track here, so bear with me. All is mind. Like that first one is really hitting on a lot of these secondary ones, But without further ado, let's hit on number 5. Because number 5 is also pretty interesting, but it's also very similar at the same time. So it's the principle of rhythm, right? Rhythm. And rhythm, it specifically says in the book that it's connected to polarity. So it kind of has some of the same concepts behind it, right? So we're talking about not just love and hate, but with rhythm, we're talking about to and fro. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about action and reaction. You know what I'm saying? Like all of this is connected. You know what I'm saying? They seem like opposites, but they're actually two sides of the same coin, right? And it's very powerful if you're able to link these things and kind of figure out how to, transfer your energy and, anywho. So, bear with me, y'all. Sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting sometimes. This is fucking embarrassing and shit. But yeah, rhythm. We're kind of hitting on a similar thing here, and really, it's recognizing the patterns in our reality and knowing how to manipulate those patterns, if that makes sense, right? Because it's just gonna help you adjust, because we have our instincts, but our instincts are only there in order to force us to react, right? But these principles are set in place in order to give you kind of like the basis of reality, so you're able to, you're better equipped to act, instead of reacting. You feel me? It's very powerful stuff, and I might pull up some excerpts here in a second. But with the principle of rhythm, it's, I think the last thing I hit on here is just that, like, this knowledge is going to help you really transfer the energy into a decision, right? A will. That's the action, right? And when you're transferring the energy, mentally, that's kind of what mastering these principles is all about. So, anywho, I'm just kind of trying to dispense my notes here, so bear with me. So number 6, right? Number 6. The principle of cause and effect. This one is kind of interesting because it kind of stands alone a little bit. It kind of hits on the fact that nothing happens by chance. Now this is an interesting one. We're kind of gonna get a little deeper on this one because a lot of people in their with their worldview like to think that things are kind of destined to happen, and that's very true. But I don't think that it's interpreted in the same way that you might think, right? And some people might not even think that destiny is a thing, but it is and it isn't at the same time. And let me explain because it's a little it's a little bit confusing. So let's get into it. So it's basically hitting on the fact that nothing happens by chance, and then even if something seems coincidental, because you gotta realize that everything that happens has a cause to it, right? There's a cause to every effect, right? So with that even in mind, you can kind of dispense the theory of, something being a coincidence because you know that something caused it, right? And that something that caused it definitely did it intentionally, right? Even if you think it's not an intention, you just don't understand the cause, right? And that's what it kind of hits on in the book. That even if you think that there is no cause, that just means that you just don't know the cause. So, yeah. Before I get ahead of myself, that just is what it is. And how does that gear towards destiny, right? And your true path or where you're supposed to be, This is where we're kind of going to teeter off into kind of personal territory because I kind of have my own interpretation of this kind of concept. So, as far as destiny, I've always kind of felt like, you're the author of your own story, right? Like we've said it like a million times already. There's a cause to every effect. So if you desire to be at a certain place in your life, like all you have to do is find out what decisions need to be made to get to that destination. You know what I'm saying? And if you ask me if I think that destiny is a thing, if I think that where I'm gonna end up is where I'm meant to be, yes, 100%, because wherever you end up at is a result of the choices that you made intentionally, right? So it's weird because it's like you gotta dissect the term like meant to be, right? Like so if something is your destiny, think about this. Something is your destiny, then it is meant to be. Okay, then it is meant to be. But you have to dissect that word, like meant, right? Meaning, you go through your life like making choices, and you mean to do every single choices with intention, right? So if you dissect it in this way, you can kind of start to see how, yes, wherever you end up is your destiny. Me sitting here talking to this camera by myself here alone is my destiny because the choices that I made up to this point have led me here, and those choices were intentional. So they had meaning, so they were meant to be, so it was destined to be, right? So that's kind of the full breakdown. And this is kind of just me kind of coming off on a tangent a little bit. Like the book doesn't really explain it in this way, but I felt like I've kind of had this in my worldview for a while now, and it kind of connected to what this principle was trying to say, right? And yeah, like beyond that, it's just hitting on the action instead of the reaction, because that's a really mastering your mental state is all about, And yeah, we had number 7 already. Damn, I feel like I've been going hella fast for some reason, but it is what it is. I'm not trying to repeat myself too much, so let's just keep it pushing. So number 7, the last principle of the 7, and these last two really kind of are. This last one kind of hits on itself a little bit differently, and I honestly might do a whole separate video on this topic. And yeah, number 7, the principle of gender, right? This is a bit of a spicy one. I kind of went back and, like I said, I might do a whole separate talk on this one alone because it's a bit interesting. And let me just clarify before we get into it. Gender in it's not talking about sex. It's not talking about your identification or anything like that. It's what this principle is referring to is masculine and feminine energy, And this is also kind of hitting on that balance thing about how masculine and feminine energy is present in all things, right? And science backs this in humans. You can kind of think, right, how men and women have both testosterone and estrogen. That the masculine and the feminine energy is present in all things, right? So this is what this is hitting on, and not just physical in the physical form, but in the mental and the spirit as well. All these forms of energy manifest in these three forms of energy, right? I've come to kind of identify these three things as the three forms of energy that we kind of know of, right? So, but let me not get into that now. Yeah, and really with the principle of gender, it hits on the the need to have that balance, right? Where in order for something to be in its true self and in true harmony with itself, it needs to have a balance of that masculine and feminine energy. And the reason why I say I kind of want to do a whole separate thing on this topic is really because you'll paint a clearer picture if you're able to define like what each thing and what manifests as each. But I'm not gonna really get into that right now. But yeah, with this principle of gender, I think a good example is if you look at like magnets, right? Like the positive and negative attraction, where if it's just right, then it's perfect, right? And the energy coincides and it is in perfect harmony. But if it's not, then it's gonna repel one another, and that's kind of like the same thing. And you see kind of like this principle manifest in a lot of different things, and not only in us but in nature as well. But yeah, that's principle number 7. I'm still in the process of going through now my third read of this, because it's written in such a way, and I had to kind of paraphrase a lot here because it is a lot of it's written in a way that's kind of hard for the current culture to kind of grasp, I feel. And it also was, I feel, written in a way that was intentionally vague, so I'm kind of taking my time with it. But I definitely felt like I wanted to run through these principles, kind of talk a little bit about how utilizing this could help anyone kind of move forward in their life, because it's the saddest thing when you see people get stuck in their life, and we talk a lot about depression and anxiety, and in my opinion those things don't really exist, right? In my opinion, all it is a lack of purpose, right? It's a lack of purpose, and that issue there plagues our generation. It plagues us, and in my opinion, our generation is the most important generation that has ever existed. And the reason being is that I feel like this new generation is gonna be more so corrupt than we were because of social media, because of this new advent of culture, and the way it's all been diluting into kind of chaos, as we've seen, as we kind of all kind of know, right? But in our generation, or at least my personal generation, depending on who might be listening to this, I feel like we're really the chosen ones, because we are not fully there. Some of us might be, but we weren't fully corrupted as youth. You know what I'm saying? We know we're like halfway in and halfway out. We only got the phone in our hands around the time we were like teenagers and shit, right? So we kind of understand both sides of the coin. And I think with everything that's shown to us, in our phones constantly, day by day, we really need to think about what should be talked about and what needs to be in the sphere, you know what I'm saying, moving forward, because we know that the powers that be, they don't tell us everything. If I hadn't presented this to you today, you most likely would never have stumbled upon this perspective and this outlook, because no one's gonna show you this shit. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn about this stuff through somebody else who might know it, or it might never get circulated. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of goes pretty deep, but I feel like it's important to get these conversations kind of in the sphere, because the way we circulate information nowadays is so fragile. Like this, it's so fragile. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do y'all think that? Or let me rephrase this. Y'all ever ponder if the ancient peoples didn't write the things that they wrote on rocks, on tablets and such, right, we would have no idea what things they did or their history or anything about them, right? Because over time we know that paper, right, what we used to write everything on, decomposes. It has a very short lifespan, if it just sits there, right? It only, a few hundred years, if that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've all seen books from like 1970, like they're about to fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And we also know that books are more or less phased out of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like by the time that my generation has kids, you know what I'm saying, they're gonna have iPads in every classroom, at every desk. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna see a textbook. What the fuck? What is an encyclopedia? You know what I'm saying? We got an encyclopedia in our pocket 24/7. But the scariest thing is the fact that, at any given moment, you know what I'm saying, we have the technology to also wipe everything from, everything that we've stored, all the information that we've circulated and all this that we utilize and use every day could just be wiped in an instant. We've had that technology. You know what I'm saying? It's a chaotic world, and certain things I feel just should just live in the mind, and I definitely feel like if we don't have these talks, it's just gonna get lost. I was trying to look for some deeper things, but I feel like I'm beating the dead horse at this point. But yeah, y'all, we gonna keep having these similar talks moving forward, because not only do I feel like it's important, I like talking about this shit. And when I'm reading books and whatnot, it's not, the intention is not to replace my current worldview, right? It's not to try to find answers that I don't have. It's to add to my current worldview. It's to take what is being given to me, take this one perspective and see what I can take from it to add to my current worldview to help me moving forward. Because that's what it's all about. It's not about, what I'm saying, it's not about, you shouldn't take ideas and pit them against each other and see which one is better. You should take what they are at face value and choose whether or not you're able to, gain from it or not. And if not, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal either. But, the point is there. I digress. All that. Yeah, yo, I think we're going to wrap it up right there. Appreciate y'all for sticking through this with me. This is a lot of rambling. I came with the heat this time. I really sat and did some preparation for this. I got a few pages here. And yeah, I definitely encourage y'all to check out that book. And if not, if y'all don't like reading, to listen to it. It's a little bit hard to read, so like I said, this is kind of why I'm here. But these principles, like I said, have really kind of solidified a lot of concepts that I've already come to understand. But it's helped me solidify them in a way that was pretty profound. And yeah, so hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see y'all next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, catch y'all on the next one. Peace.